Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to Inside Furman Athletics. Self-explanatory title. That's what we do. We go inside the athletic department here at Furman University. I'm Dan Scott. It is our monthly Ask the AD session of Inside Furman Athletics. So Jason Donnelly is here, and we want to welcome for the first time to the show and to campus, although she's been here since August, the new women's tennis coach here, Michelle Dasso.
Thanks for having me.
How are you?
Great.
Good. This is a one-time only. We don't charge for this view. First time you come up.
This is my favorite
view,
view, aside from the tennis center.
There you go.
And Michelle, last time Dan and I were together, we were talking about what we were going to do next. And I said, we're going to get Michelle. And because Dan's lining up all these different interviews with all the different coaches. It's like, we need to welcome Michelle to the Furman family. This is kind of the first official thing. And then, so everyone understands, like, we're walking up here, and Michelle's probably like, what am I getting myself into? And this is just really more an introduction to you, to our fan base. Dan does a great job of this. So if you're new to this is something that we try to do on about a monthly basis, where we get together and we talk with our coaches, we talk with our staff and our personnel, and then we can go through questions. So if you have questions, you can send them to Dan, and then Dan will get them to me on any topic. We're happy to talk about anything that we're allowed to talk about. But Michelle, we want to welcome you, and I hope that you're having a great experience. But can you tell us a little bit about your journey to get here at Furman? What were some of your process in terms of coming here? And I'm aware, but for the public, what was some of the process for you?
Besides convincing him that you were the person for the job.
Absolutely.
That was easy.
Well, obviously, I loved Jason's energy from the get-go, but Furman is fantastic academically. The success they've had in the tennis program and the history is remarkable, and I wanted the challenge to keep that rolling and to move it forward even further. So I'm absolutely loving my experience. The team has been fantastic, working hard. We're going to have some challenges, but we're up for the challenge and looking forward to a great spring season.
Yeah, one of the things that impressed me with Michelle, I really am motivated by people who are passionate about Furman, in terms of their energy and wanting to be here. And, Adam Herendeen was kind of a high riser, and everyone kind of knew that in the tennis community, that Adam, with his success, was also looking to make a move, and that's good. That's a good thing. But Michelle had been following us pretty closely from Duke, and almost immediately, maybe the day of or the day after that Adam had made this announcement, we got a note from Michelle expressing that this was a dream job, a place that she'd had her eyes on. And this is someone that, in my mind, Michelle's resume is just off the charts. For those of you that don't know her, outstanding player, has had great success as a student athlete, outstanding coach, former head coach, so you bring in head coach experience here. And at the time, the assistant coach of arguably one of the top tennis programs in the nation, of the work that you had done at Duke in terms of competing for national championships. But, having you here for us is such a blessing, and I'm just so grateful for you to be a part of it. But tell us about your background in terms of things that you've done before you got involved with Furman.
I played at the University of Notre Dame, so obviously there for 4 years, and I was also the assistant there for 4 years. And then, like you said, I've been a head coach at the University of Illinois, at Campbell University for 1 year, and the associate head coach at Duke the last 3 years. And last year we beat the #1 team ranked in the country, UNC, on Senior Day, which was pretty spectacular. But getting to the Final Four, winning an ACC championship, which hadn't been done in about a decade, was pretty exciting. And I feel like, to me, that was motivating to move on and be back in the head coaching realm. And, hey, you should have took me up here. This is my first time seeing this view from this press box, so that would have been a done deal for sure. I'm definitely bringing recruits up here in the future.
Well, that's what we did for Dan. I mean, that's why Dan's so excited to come to work every day. He's got this great view here.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, it beats working for a living, as I say. Let's see, Duke beating North Carolina. That's not a big deal in the Triangle at all, is it?
Oh, man. NC State's fantastic, too, that whole area.
What kind of player were you?
I was pretty scrappy. I didn't like to lose. I won quite a few matches, but I'll tell you, I only remember my losses because that still irks me. But I was an all-court player. I like to break down. I think that's really helped me in my coaching career. I really like analyzing opponents and figuring out, hey, this is the best tactic to be able to, find success and give yourself the best chance to break down an opponent and win. So I enjoyed, competing. That's my favorite part of it, and helping our players try try to figure out a way to break down their opponents is something I love to do.
Good.
Yeah. And I talked to Michelle. One of the things that was interesting in our process. Hiring a coach is also unique in the sense that student athlete voice really matters. And in terms of that process and really trying to figure out where they're at. And so the public understands that when you make a coaching transition, one of the things that you worry about is, that these days, because of the transfer portal, students can just leave. They can say, you know what, we've enjoyed this, but we're deciding to go another direction. And so we get input from them. And the two things that they wanted someone with great culture, family culture that was going to really spend time with them and really get to know them on a personal level and really be invested in their lives. And then someone that was incredibly competitive, And what we loved about Michelle is that she fit both of those things. And to give context, too, about this year's team, I mean, for you, it's kind of a rite of passage. Like any time that you leave a program, they usually invite you back and say, hey, you got to play us. And you got to go play your former team as a part of that process. It's kind of a thing in coaching that takes place. But this year's team is in a unique place because last year's team, Southern Conference champions, graduated a big piece of that class. And during the transition, we had one student athlete that moved on, which was kind of expected as a part of that process. But can you talk about this year's team, which is a young team? I know that coming into it because I've watched them compete and watched them perform. But you want to talk about this year's team and expectations you have for them?
Love this team. I mean, we're going to face some challenges, especially early on. We have a very competitive schedule, but our practices each day, we're practicing with a purpose. And these girls work hard. So to me, that's what it's all about. It's all about the process. Are we getting 1% better each day, 2% better? And I think you just got to keep your mind on a growth mindset. We want to be playing our best tennis come SoCon Championship. Yeah. And that's what we're working for on a daily basis.
What about Madison Dillon? I mean, how awesome is she? Because, Madison was basically, we joke she was like the interim head coach while we were in the process of hiring a new coach. But talk about Madison Dillon as a senior and the impact she has on the program.
I mean, she's been fantastic. She should be up here doing this,
she's
actually.
Really
Where's my left-hand coach here? She's been great, fantastic leadership skills, just bubbly personality, just talks to recruits, talks to anyone in the community, and just sells Furman like no other. So she's a tremendous asset for our team and greatly going to be missed next year. But we're not thinking about next year yet.
Good.
You and I were talking out in the hallway before we got started. You've got a small roster. You've got 7 players on the roster, and I joked with you, well, nobody can complain about playing time. But how does that dynamic work?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you got to be prepared, right? It's tough. Like, you got to take care of your body, make sure you're getting enough sleep, looking ahead with their schoolwork. And it's going to be everyone taking care of themselves individually, everyone being prepared to put their best foot forward when called. And everyone's going to be called.
Coming from a highly ranked, highly intense academic institution like Duke's, no surprise what you were walking into when you got here. How is that an advantage for you coming into a program like this with that background?
It's a big advantage. I know that it takes a lot. You got to be dedicated with your time. I will have to brag. We had 2 players get a 4.0 last semester, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Just so great student athletes. They value education. They value their tennis. They're just fantastic people with high character.
Well, thinking about recruiting, as you look to the future, you've made some really good hires on your coaching staff. What's the type of, when you're thinking about the future of Furman tennis, what are some of the things you're looking for in future players and as you're building your roster? Looking ahead, where do you think you are?
Yeah, I definitely want all court players, but most important, I want players that love the game, that love the school, that really just thrive on getting better, continuous improvement, culture of caring, like you touched upon earlier. But I have a fantastic staff, 2 players that actually played at Duke, and they can hit in I wish I could put them in the lineup too, actually, with 7 on the roster. But they're pushing the girls definitely each day. So
what was cool for us is as you were going through your hiring process, word would get back to us on who you were looking at, who you're considering. And then word inevitably would get to the team, and the team was like, wow, that this is what a great opportunity to learn from great former players that are just recently playing, but also the chance to practice with them and the chance to learn from them on the court. So I compliment you on building a great staff in terms of everything that you're doing. You're off to a great start. For those that have not had a chance to attend a women's tennis match here at Furman, and you had your first one this past weekend indoors, but the outdoor women's tennis season is actually very, very exciting. We get great support from the community, get great support from our student athletes, but would strongly encourage you to come out and be a part of it. But as you're looking ahead, what are some of the things you're excited about as you're looking at the schedule throughout the year coming up?
February 5th is our first SoCon match, so I'm very excited about that. We play at 11 a.m., I believe, and February 3rd, looking ahead to that, we play Tennessee at home at 3 p.m. on a Friday. So
Awesome.
I think that's on our target the next couple home matches for certain. But to play on those 6 outdoor courts, the Debbie Southern Bank is just fantastic. You know, obviously yesterday we had a match, but we had to play indoors. But I'm looking forward to getting outside and utilizing that fantastic atmosphere.
Yeah, and I love. Go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, we were talking earlier. She told me she thought it was going to be warmer here. Can you do something about that?
So, so here, when I came in, it was, for the first 3 months, I mean, it was like 90 degrees the whole time. And at one point I said, does it ever turn off? Like we got into October, November, it was a record heat. And it is a little bit cooler right now, but I will tell you, I was in Pennsylvania this past weekend for a college basketball reunion, and I got off the plane, and I forgot how cold it was up there, and it really made me miss and appreciate South Carolina, because there's nothing like this weather here. But the Debbie Southern, has been a really big part of the program. Obviously, the success she had as a coach, and then her coming back. But one of the most important things in the process that we had discussed, and was similar to what JJ had gone through with Coach Scarpa, is this tradition we have of really respecting the past and the legacy. And Debbie Southern, for the public to know, reached out to me about Michelle and known you as a player and as a coach, and been following your career. And she was a huge advocate for you. But can you talk a little bit about your relationship with Debbie and where she stands with Furman tennis?
She's just a tremendous person. I mean, she just is full of kindness, generosity. She's someone that I really look up to, and I want to carry on her legacy. And she came out on Sunday for our Iowa match. She came back for the Debbie Southern Fall Tournament. So I reach out to her just for advice, and she's just always willing to help in any way possible. Just tremendous person, and have so much respect for her.
I love that.
Jason mentioned, obviously, the transfer portal a moment ago, and things have changed since you were a player and since you got in and started your coaching career with NIL, transfer portal, all of that stuff. So from a coaching standpoint and the relationship you have to have with players now, as opposed to what it may have been like previously, how have you navigated all of these changes?
It's tough. Obviously, college landscape is changing daily. But to me, recruiting stems from starting from within. I want my players to have a tremendous experience. I want them to grow as tennis players, grow academically, and then just enjoy that culture that we've formed. I can't control what happens in the future, but I think if you take care of the people as best as you can within the program, then things will work out. At the end of the day, as a coach, you want whatever's best for your players, and I just want them to know how much I care. And I think every day you put that out there.
Yeah, and I'll make a plug too for what the program is that I think there's certain programs that we have here that are premier programs nationally, and I think our women's tennis program is one of those programs. And I think as you go through the process of recruiting families, that there's a consistent theme that these student athletes want an elite education. They want to be in an environment that really, truly cares for them as people, and they want to be able to compete at the highest possible level. And I think that our women's golf program is a program that can do that. And I think our women's tennis program is a program that can do that. Obviously, our cross-country programs have done it, and several, the footballs and basketballs are in the mix on that as well. But the women's tennis program, their ability to compete at the highest possible level was part of the reason why you were attracted to this program, is that we are competing. And if you talk to the women on the team, they want to be in NCAA Final Four team. They want to have that level of success. So it's a really unique place to be. Students that may have moved on from here, sometimes they may be moving on because the academics are really hard. Part of that process is that you have to know that you're coming to an environment where you're going to get pushed academically. And it's not to say it's not the case everywhere else. Duke, obviously, yes, it is. But some schools, they really are there just to play tennis. They're getting an education, but they're there to play tennis. Here, you're coming to be a student first and to compete for excellence. So I think the program and what you want to build from it is really in a great place in terms of what you want to do.
I believe so too. That's why I'm here.
It's good, really good. Well, we're excited looking ahead. One special thing we're going to do tonight, which is new to Michelle. Tonight, President Davis and Charles are going to invite the women's tennis team and the women's golf team over to their house. It's a tradition that we started before COVID, where we try to honor the teams that have won Southern Conference championships. So we weren't able to do it this past fall. There's just a lot of moving parts, but we're going to have a reception tonight. We're going to honor the team, which is really a reflection of everyone that's a part of the program now, and everyone's been a part of the program in the past. But I'm so grateful that you're here and so loving your leadership, the way that you care for the student athletes. I love that every time I look up at any Furman athletic contest, I see our women's tennis team there. So not only are they great competitors, but they're also great supporters of everyone else. So it says a lot about the culture that you're building and everything you're doing.
Oh, we appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Before we let you go, you talked about the home matches coming up, but before we get there, and we're recording this on Tuesday as always, so this weekend you're at the ITA kickoff in Raleigh, and you open up against Vanderbilt, right?
We do. We play Saturday at 2 versus Vanderbilt.
Who else is in the field?
NC State is hosting, and University of Illinois is the 4th team.
So you're somebody you're familiar with, right?
I am,
Actually,
I am.
two other teams you're familiar with.
But again, you get Furman tennis. Like this past year, we had Debbie Southern. You get the best teams, on our side of the country that are here on Furman's campus, and it's Furman, and all these other teams are competing to be a part of it. And everyone that's, Wake Forest and Duke, and everyone that's a part of that is here in North Carolina. It says a lot, and I think that's got to couch expectations also. That when our team is consistently competing against bigger schools that have larger profiles, but Furman tennis is consistently there. That's what makes this unique in terms of where we are with women's tennis, where we are with women's golf. It's a great honor. So thank you for continuing that tradition.
Well, thank you. Yeah, if you want to be the best, you got to play the best.
Yes.
I think Ric Flair said that. Didn't he?
That's your guy.
To be the man, you got to be. You got to beat the
know what
man.
you're up against.
There you go.
That's our first Ric Flair reference on the AB's podcast.
And probably won't be the last either. Anything else?
No, this is great. Thank you, Dan.
All
Appreciate
right.
the time.
Well, thanks
Thanks
you.
for having me,
so,
Dan.
So, will you come back? That's the question now.
Absolutely. I might be here tomorrow just looking at the view.
Awesome. I will let you transition out. I'll remind folks, if you have not seen it, and I can't imagine that you haven't, but the football schedule was released yesterday, and we will open on another Thursday night opener here at Furman with Tennessee Tech coming in on August the 31st, and then it's at South Carolina and at Kennesaw State before the SoCon opener with Mercer on September the 23rd. Citadel is here, and then look at that stretch. 3 of the next 4 starting on October the 14th in the conference are on the road at Sanford, at Western, home for ETSU, and then at Chattanooga, VMI, and then at Wofford to close it out. Of course, as always, tickets are available at FurmanPaladins.com, or you can call Dwight Covington or Houghton Flanagan, and they will get you taken care of. Already looking forward to football season. And I did see yesterday where there was a ranking put out by someone who covers the FCS that has Furman early on ranked as the number 5 FCS team in the country with a opportunity to compete for a national championship.
Yeah, and I love that we're talking about football in January. And what a great year for Furman football. And I think we've had a chance to debrief on that for the most part. But, it was really interesting last year. I remember being at the Southern Conference Media Day with Clay and talking about where they were ranked in the conference. And he had this look in his eye. Mm-hmm. He said, they don't know. They don't know where we're going to be. And I love that underdog mentality that he had. And I think the challenge for him will be now with some recognition, with a bullseye on your back, the way that you prepare and the way you go through the season. But that's really what the strength of Clay is and that football staff in terms of who they are and what they do. But it is exciting to be preseason ranked. There's a lot of opportunities that come with that. Love that the schedule was released, and really excited about football season coming up. We're excited about how it lays out. It's a really good schedule for us, and it's a great opportunity. Obviously love the in-state game at South Carolina in terms of the rivalries and matchups there. But
and it also, before we move on from that, it was good to see Furman getting some national recognition in the was it the Hula Bowl?
Hula Bowl, yeah.
With Ryan Miller catching the touchdown pass.
Yeah.
And getting Furman some national pub there.
Well, I think it says a lot that every NFL team at some point came through Furman, and Ryan leading the way in terms of his ability and him on a national stage. I mean, he's a unique, dynamic player that has the potential to play in the NFL and do some really exciting things. And we will miss him. He was a go-to guy and certainly someone that they are working around in terms of recruiting. It's been great to see that success. And then I just wanted to, before we move on from Michelle, I hope everyone can get a feel for the quality of the coaches that we have here at Furman. I think that, for me, one of the most exciting things coming to work every day is just the quality of the people that we have in terms of where they are and the journey that they're going through. And Michelle's inheriting a great program that's had great success. and they're going to continue to have success. She has a younger team this year. We knew that they'd be younger and in a bit of a transition, but the staff that she's assembled, the culture that she's building, the competitiveness of the team, it's really, really exciting in terms of where we're headed. So appreciate everyone getting to know Michelle, and I hope that you'll take some time to come out and meet her as well. But just wanted to say happy holidays to everybody. I hope that it was a great break. We've been off to a great start already for the new year, and we're excited to be back. Just a couple quick updates on our department. We always focus on academics. It's a great opportunity for us to, to look back to see what we've done. But every one of our teams finishing above a 3.0 for the first time, where everyone was right there. I think one team was 2.99. So we're going to count that. But 3.0, GPAs across the board shows a great commitment that we have, both from our student athletes, our coaches, our faculty. Athletics has been fun. The winter season's basketball. I appreciate you traveling all over the place and doing everything that you're doing. But our team has had an up and down year, but they're really playing well, and they're in a really strong space, coming off of 2 really good wins after a heartbreaking loss at home recently. But the Wofford game was awesome, and that intensity, and hopefully we'll come out of that healthy for the most part. We've got some injuries to work through, but a big game on Wednesday. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're not already planning to be there, we need a great energy and a great crowd on Wednesday as we take on Samford, who right now is undefeated in the conference, which again isn't a surprise. We knew that they would have a great year.
Yeah, and they have Quez Glover back after he missed an extended period of time, so they're at full strength.
Yeah, and that's not a coincidence either. They're penciling Furman on their calendar and saying, if we're going to get a great player back, how do we get him back in time for what would be the big rivalry game in the conference? And it's also not a coincidence that the league has us finishing the season at Samford on a Saturday. That's been put together, and it's kind of a made-for-TV event in terms of saying where will these two teams be as they compete for a Southern Conference championship. So we're right there. And then, spring sports are starting up. We got a lot of energy on campus, and a number of our teams have just begun what would be their official practice seasons here. And also a number of our fall sports are coming back. And the Bernardis had a great group in the weight room this past Saturday in terms of getting everyone back and getting their reps and getting everyone back here on campus. So it's an exciting time. One thing I also wanted to mention, too, is if you hadn't seen also, we have a new partnership with the Greenville Triumph and the Greenville Liberty that we're really excited about, which is a great opportunity for Furman University and for the city of Greenville as we continue to build our partnership. This came about, they're in a transition as they're building a new stadium for their professional soccer team here in Greenville. And we've had an existing partnership. We hosted the Liberty last summer, which we were excited to do, and we had a number of our former student athletes play. But they're going to play and compete here. I'm looking out there as well as a part of where we're trying to grow and the things we're trying to do. And so everyone can understand the mindset from where we're coming from. This won't be a distraction for our existing groups of peoples. And we did debate using the soccer stadium. That was something we tried to do. We just couldn't logistically put it together for a group of that size. That would have been the most optimal way to go about it, is have them play in the soccer stadium. But this is a great opportunity for us to bring thousands of fans and energy to Furman's campus. This is a part of our responsibility to continue to drive our brand, create awareness, get more people on this campus. And part of that process is to hopefully in that process, it's to translate a good portion of those Triumph fans. Like everywhere I go in Greenville, I see their branding and logos as a part of that, to translate some of those people into becoming Furman fans and to become a part of our campus community and to do the things that we need to do. There's also questions about it. We need the revenue. It's just a part of our job is to think outside the box and create different ways to have revenue. And when we look at our sports profile in terms of things that we do, there's still a mindset for us to be aggressive, for us to go out and do things we haven't done, to look to the future, to consider the past, things that we've done in the past that we might want to look to do again. But we've got to create energy, we've got to create excitement, we've got to create vision, and we've got to open the doors at Furman to more and more people, and that's a part of this process. So excited I could talk about that. I think that's kind of an overview of where we are, but we're going to have them here this summer, which is really March to October, but primarily here in the summer when we're not competing in football or lacrosse, then they will be here. And then the thing I'm most excited to talk about is this great gift from Ravenel Curry. And our community is just incredibly grateful to Ravenel. One of the things Dan said before we got in the air is like, we can finally talk about Timmons. And the reality is that, in this process, when you're trying to go through an arena renovation or you're trying to go through a process of making big change, oftentimes there's things that we know about they're in the works for several months,
Right.
sometimes several years. When you go through something of this magnitude, and this has been an ongoing conversation that's been supported by our president, it's been supported by our trustees, and Ravenel, who is a big believer in Furman University, who's a big believer in the impact that basketball has on our brand and our ability to attract students and to compete on a national level, is someone that is really, truly showing his level of investment. This will be the single largest gift to the university. It's the largest gift in the history of athletics from one individual. Obviously David Trone has done a tremendous amount for the university as well. But Ravenel's generosity is inspiring. And where it puts us is at more than 50% towards a project, which is a $40 million renovation, which really starts to set us up for the ability to make this renovation possible. And our plan is to use 2023 to try to complete the remainder of the balance that we need to do for this fundraising project. So this has been in play. Sometimes I think when people ask about it, what's the big secret? There's a private phase of this. There's a public phase of this. We haven't even fully got to the public phase of this because there's more to share. But when you go through an arena renovation, you've got to go through the process both internally and externally to do all the things you need to do. And we can talk about that now. I know there's questions about it. But I just want to say thank you to Ravenel and very grateful. And I just would encourage our community to take some time and just appreciate where we're at in this really special moment in time. And the great work that Bob Ritchie and Jackie Carson and many have done to make these basketball programs inspirational and special.
Yeah, I know that every time we do one of these, the question has come up. So that's why I said, hey, we can finally talk about it. But internally here, I know that Bob's been chomping at the bit to get it out there publicly, and as have you and everybody else. The timing had to be right to do it, and we've all were just waiting for the proper time to come to do that. So now it's out there. Now we can talk about it. And as you might imagine, when we went to the fan questions, the vast majority of them were about the upcoming Timmons upgrade.
Yeah, and just to consider a couple of things. So I have some of the questions in front of me. This is a $40 million renovation of the existing facility, meaning the interior of the arena, all the different aspects that impact our game day operations. So you're thinking about the inner bowl of what we're going to do here. And this is a priority. I know that when people look at it, they say, well, Timmons is great. Well, Timmons is going to continue to be great, but we need to modernize this facility. So when we go through a process, this was my first day on the job. I walked in there, and it's part of the interview process just to look at it. It needs to be modernized to be at a place where we can compete for recruiting, for retention, for revenue, for fan experience, for student experience, and our competitors, everyone from Wofford to Elon to High Point. I mean, anyone that's out there to mid-major Belmont, anyone that's out there to level where we are, they've already done this renovation. This has been an important part of what they do. And Bob and Nico before him have done a great job of getting this program national recognition and national respect. And they've recruited, built staff, they've built culture, they've invested. We've had success. That we're making these strides. But at the end of the day, the kind of the black eye, the sore in this process has been the arena in terms of what it can do and the visibility of it. And when you go head to head with a recruit, and if they show up in your neighborhood and they're here to see Furman and Wofford, well, Wofford makes a totally different impression than it does at Furman. And we're not trying to be bigger or better than that. We need to just have Furman be the way it needs to be for us. So when you look at this process, we've had a 3-phase process to this whole thing. And a 3-phase process is more like looking at a $60 million investment, not just a $40 million investment. But the first phase of this process was to get the offices and locker rooms done and right. I'm happy to report that all of that has been paid for and completed. If you haven't already had a chance to see the changes in the offices and the film rooms and the locker rooms, I mean, just off the charts. We've had national people come through, coaches of all different levels come through. And when they walk in there, it screams excellence and it speaks first class, and it's been done really, really well. And that will have an impact right off the bat. But that commitment from our donors and the fact that that's paid in cash, that's already done. So phase 1 is a process that's already done. Phase 2 is to spend the 2023 calendar year to really have the conversations that need to take place from a leadership level with our board, with our donors. And a lot of these are 7-figure conversations. A lot of these are 6-figure conversations. And And there's a trickle-down effect as you go through this process. And if anyone's out there saying, hey, I haven't got the phone call yet, well, we're happy to call you. You know, you just call us, and we'll engage that conversation, because we do need help, and we do need people that want to support this project. And there will be a time and place for everyone to participate and contribute to this. This is one of those things at the end of the day that we will ask everyone to support and contribute to this, and there'll be an opportunity to do that. And institutions like Furman that are looking to grow, we need this support, and we need a broad-based support. But this phase 2 will focus on the inner bowl of the arena. It'll focus on the front entrance to the arena, and it's going to be to get it right. And not to take anything away from the original construction of what was done, but it was originally built as a multi-purpose arena that didn't really serve the purpose of what it needs to be as a basketball arena. But with an inner concourse and the changes in the sound and lights and the concessions and the retail, the experience, the ambiance, all the different things you need to do. The one good thing we have with Timmons is it has really good bones. We're able to do a renovation in this space that'll allow it to be excellent. And phase 3, which is down the road, not now, is to consider adding a practice facility as a part of that project. That's not something we're going to take on at this time. We did debate doing that first versus second, but our donors really want to see the arena done first, and then we're gonna go with that. Now that does create some displacement for the teams during the period of time when we're doing construction. But that's just something we know, and it's something we're going to take on as a part of this process. Obviously, if fundraising is accelerated, and if there's more coming through ahead of time, then we'll consider making those additions. I think sometimes when we're going through the process too, everyone wants a sense of what are all the details. Well, the details are fluid and changing. So the concepts are there. When you go through this process with an architect or a designer, construction team, we know the concepts of what we're looking to do. But the details will change, and the details may change based on conversations that we have with coaches, based on conversations that we have with architects, based on conversations we have with designers. And those things are still getting fleshed out. And we will release all those things when we're prepared to do so. But the process has been going on for a while, and we're excited to do that. But the phase that we're in right now is fundraising phase. Now that we're working right now on closing the gap on what we need to do for that. And the goal from a timeline perspective is for us to be doing construction in 2024. Does that mean January 1 of 24? Does that mean March 15 of 24? Does that mean the next summer? Well, we still have to figure that out. We got to figure out what the timing is. But the intention is to play next season in Timmons Arena. It'll probably be hopefully our last season in there. Is the plan, in terms of what we're going to do. But that's the plan. That's what we're going to go through this process. Does that mean we're going to complete the season? I don't know. I mean, all that stuff is still up in the air, because some of those things got to get determined by our finance teams, got to get determined by our facilities team, by our construction people, by all these different things. But it's an exciting thing to be a part of, because getting this facility right is going to allow our program to be where it needs to be, so we can recruit and we can retain and we can drive revenue and opportunities in a first-class facility that's worthy of Furman. Like, it was really cool. I mean, Michelle's looking out here at this stadium. This stadium is got first class, and there's obviously things we always want to look to do to improve it, but we need to get to that level in terms of things that we're doing.
I think you've already answered a number of the questions that were given to us about Timmons. Will construction on Phase 2 begin without the money for Phase 3? Yes, because Phase 3 is the practice facility. That was in there as well. You just gave the project timeline for remaining phases. $40 million does not include practice facilities.
Nope.
Building from scratch was never really an option, was it?
Well, yes and no. So, it was for me, from day one, for me, my job is to dream big and have a vision for what we can do, and then to assess the resources and the ability to do this. We would have had no problem starting with a brand new building, but the building would have cost about $100 million. It's knowing the market, having been through this before, knowing what it takes to get it done. If there was a desire and if there was a donor at that capacity to say we're going to do a brand new building, we would consider doing a brand new building. And the advantage of doing a brand new building is that when you do a brand new building, some of the existing facilities may be recreated to be other things that we need on campus, whether they be for athletics or for student life. Now, that was a conversation that did take place here. When we got to really the pandemic, really began to focus on, we're going to do a renovation. We've got to be realistic about resources. We got to know what we're going to take on. And Timmons is got a lot of value. Timmons, the history of Timmons, the location for Timmons, the volume in Timmons, the home court advantage in Timmons brings a lot of assets that we have when we look at Timmons. One of the other things that's interesting, and it's a question that's on that list, is we're going to continue to play games at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena. That's a part of our strategy in terms of who we are in Greenville. And we'll figure out which games go where. That's a facility that we don't own. We don't own the schedule. Like during a transition year, we're going to play a lot of games at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena. We love that partnership and appreciate that partnership. And part of the strategy, like you saw what we did on December 17th in the Greenville Invitational, and a chance for us to partner with South Carolina, for us to partner with Clemson. We have national teams that want to play in that event. We had teams coming from all around the country. There's national TV opportunities there to help us grow Furman's brand and help us go push things forward. It's an NCAA tournament facility. We've hosted the men's tournament. We're about to host the women's tournament. And we will continue to use that arena. So one of the advantages of that is that we want to create the best home court advantage that we can have in Timmins. And when we talk about size, when we talk about scale, when we talk about amenities, it's going to be built to be really nice. That's the goal. It's not intended to be something big that we're growing with it. That's not the purpose of that, because we have an arena downtown that we can play in front of 15,000.
Well, and Bob and I have talked about that before, and I don't know that this has really been shared or thought about from a public standpoint, but when the renovation is done, it's not going to be a huge increase in seating capacity.
No.
Capacity is going to be about the same as it is now, but it's going to include luxury boxes and, and all of the amenities. But the seating capacity of Timmins, by and large, is not going to change.
Yeah, and that's intentional.
Right.
We want to have a really intense and fun environment on campus that fits the size and scale of our campus here at Furman. And we will play anyone that will play us here in Timmins that'll be a part of that. We're very excited about that. So we want this to be as nice as possible. We want these tickets to be valuable. When you're a part of the Timmins basketball experience as a student, as a season ticket holder, as a fan, we want to have that intimate home court relationship. Now, if we weren't in a city like Greenville that didn't have this arena and we were growing, we might want to consider expanding and being larger. That might be a part of the strategy. But when you go through renovation, you've got to make decisions on the front end. What's the key? The key here is to improve the facility. The key here is to get the facility right so that it represents all the things that we're trying to do with Furman Athletics and Furman Basketball and Furman University. That's the goal. But making it bigger would be a different project that you consider doing. But when we're playing games at a higher scale, like if we're talking about playing a game and it's going to be attendance of 10,000, you'll play that game downtown when you have that type of draw. So you have a little bit of the best of both worlds. I was fortunate during my time prior to here to have a great home court environment, the kind of home court environment where you expect to win. Your winning percentage is in the 90s, like that. You're this great home court winning on-campus environment that's great for the students to walk to, the fans to be a part of, with the flexibility of having a downtown arena that you can draw different kind of games, different type of opportunities, and really look to grow it. We're at an exciting point. Furman basketball, if it continues to build and grow, we do want to be at the point where we're hosting 10,000 people for a basketball game. That's a really good thing for where we're going. But we also have to be realistic. Getting a midweek game in Greenville when some of our fans are coming from hours away, it is still a challenge. We want to have the best home court environment when we need the best home court environment. We want to have the flexibility to grow and be bigger when we can do those different things. And that's the exciting thing about Furman Athletics is that we are in a growth process. So we can see the growth in metrics. We can see the growth in attendance. We can see the growth in engagement. There's a lot of positives that are there. And we've got to appreciate the growth and be patient in this process. But we also want to be aggressive enough to allow us to be a bigger brand than we've been to date, in terms of knowing what that is and the upside of where we go. And I think if you look at the trend line where football is headed and where basketball is headed, then we should expect that growth and be aggressive in that space. But be smart. At the end of the day, you got to look at an ROI. What's the return on your investment? To get this facility right and to have this facility be right for the next 20, 30 years and have an endowment attached to it so you continue to improve it and grow it. We want to be as competitive as possible and have a great home court advantage in Timmins Arena. And it's got to be driven by donors. That's another question I saw. You're talking about different things is like, what's the investment and what we're trying to get done? We're trying to be as self-sufficient as we can be in terms of the department that we're going to be. We need resources to do that. We need donor resources. We need revenue resources. We need attendance. We need investment from the institution. And, from my perspective, we're doing all those things in terms of where we're growing and where we're trying to be.
One of the other questions kind of wrapping up Timmins before we move on was about drawings. Is there a timetable where preliminary drawings might be made available to the public?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dan. And we are gearing up in April on April 15th to have a campus-wide launch of our comprehensive capital campaign, which is going on right now. The campaign is ongoing and in place, but the official launch, that as far as I know, everyone's invited to be a part of this. If you're Furman and you're a participant in our community, on April 15th, the comprehensive campaign launch, and we do intend to share a lot of information at that time about Timmons, and not just limited to Timmons, but also the other things that we're working on across our campus and in athletics as a part of our master plan of things that we're looking to do. So just because we're investing in a basketball arena doesn't mean we're not investing in and pushing forward in other spaces, because we are donor-centric and we do follow the lead of where people want to be. And if a donor has an interest in making a $10 million investment in other spaces on our campus or in our athletics community, we're going to prioritize those things that way. And it doesn't have to be $10 million. It could be a gift of a lesser amount that allows us to do the things we're looking to do. But April 15th is a target date as a part of that campaign where we're looking to share things. Some things have gone out inadvertently. There was a mistake made with our architects group, and some of those things aren't accurate. I think that's important for the public to know, is that there's concepts that we're all working on, and the final renderings are going to really be what the university, the board of trustees, the leadership decides, and the donor support dictates. Like you could want the whole world, but if you don't have the resources or the approval or the process, then those things don't happen. But I would stay tuned and expect to see more as we get closer to April.
All right, let's move on to some of the other questions. The football schedule question is out there again. We have 12-game season next year in 24. Of course, the 23 schedule was announced yesterday. The play-up games, as I call them, playing the FBS opponents. I know the Tennessee game has been rescheduled for 2026.
Yep.
Anything beyond that? Any other news schedule-wise?
So I saw that question. It's the top of the list that you gave me. And the schedule is complete this year, 2023. The schedule is complete for 2024. And the schedule is complete for 2025. We also have the Tennessee game in 2026. It really sits with football. I know that this question's come up before. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big believer that the schedule is the responsibility of the coaches and the team, the broadcast, to promote when they're ready to do so. So those schedules are complete, but that's going to be with them. That as a former coach, like you want ownership of things that you're excited about. It's
right.
Exciting to release your schedule, and quite honestly, they're not trying to get too far ahead of it because they're focused on this year. I know that for fans, you may want to see, what are you doing in 26, 27, 28, 29? It really doesn't matter. We're going to get there when we get there. What we're focused on is what's in front of us right now in terms of where we're going. And our staff continues to have conversations with FBS schools down the road. People might not want to admit it, and you may see games that get scheduled for different reasons, but there is a slowdown and a wait-and-see approach by FBS schools after 26 about scheduling, because they in the SEC and Big Ten, they're still trying to figure out ACC, where all this is going, mm-hmm. and what do their schedules look like. If you see a game getting scheduled down the road, it may be a tentative agreement. We've had people say to us, hey, we'll sign an agreement with you, but it can be null and void if we need to at a moment's notice, where they need to walk away from that. You may see military academies lining up games because they're military academies in terms of where they're going. We know this because we're on the front lines of it, and it's one of those things that's taking place, but there's still a lot that needs to get settled when it comes to the future of the Power Five. What does that look like? How does the 12-game playoff impact that? What does it look like? From all accounts, everyone in football wants to play FBS versus FCS games. It's good for both parties. It's certainly very strong for financial resources for FCS, and it's certainly really good for FBS teams to get an additional home game when they're talking about their scheduling. But the metrics in a playoff system and TV and all the different things that take place is that there may be changes down the road that these schools are still acknowledging that we got to see what this is going to look like when we get there, and it's still a number of years away. So there's not a rush to judgment in terms of what that's going to be. Part of our process at Furman is to have the conversations with these schools, be aggressive with scheduling, but also be respectful enough to know, okay, we need to wait and see to make sure that what we're signing up for can stand. I've had AD say to me, I'll send you a contract, but there's going to be a clause in it that's going to say we need to get out of this, if things change. So we need to make sure that we're making the right decisions for the long-term future of Furman football. I will also tell you that everyone associated with this program is laser focused on the right now. And when I say right now, I mean today. That the effort, the intensity, the intentionality, that everything that's going on around that program, from Clay Hendricks and the staff, he's thinking more about today's student athlete, his staff, retention, I think the promotion of Andre Bernardi to being an associate head coach speaks volumes about how valuable Andre Bernardi is. This is someone that other programs want. They want Andre and Caitlin Bernardi at other schools. There's an intentionality on our staff and our team wanting to be a part of this team and what the opportunities are in front of them. And there's not a single person that's not involved in the organization that's not thinking about winning a national championship. They want to win the Southern Conference. They want to be in the FCS playoffs. They want to win a national championship. It's the same thing with Bob Ritchie and the basketball program. There's not a single person on there that's worried about next season at all. The intentionality is today's practice, tomorrow's game, this season, trying to win the Southern Conference, trying to go to the NCAA tournament, and just to see where this goes. I mean, everything right now is really very immediate and right in front of us, and I enjoy that, And I think, for fans, we can speculate: what is this? Where are we going? What does it look like? We're living in the now. The precious present to us is the most valuable thing that we're doing right now, and that's exactly where I want our coaches to be and our staff to be. But we are planning for the future as administrators, but that'll come. We'll get there when we get there.
And I'll say this about the now before we move on. I'm sure that there have been some questions by Furman fans. Is this team really capable of playing for and winning another national championship? I think if there were questions, those questions were answered this past fall.
Yeah.
Because you see, by all intents and purposes, we should have won that game at Incarnate Word and played in the next round. We were that close.
Yeah.
And saw how well Incarnate Word presented itself moving forward into the semifinals. So I think that question has been answered. This program can play for another national championship.
Yeah, and when you're in a shootout with a great team, and both teams defensively, offensively are doing what we did on the field there, it could have gone either way. Who's got the ball last? Who makes that last play? Sometimes it comes down to one play. For Clay, I mean, it's not even the interception at the end. It's a holding call.
Right.
We've got the ball and we're driving. We got a chance to run clock and not give them the ball back. I mean, that's where his head was at. I think it's the same with the basketball program with the Chattanooga game last year. I mean, we were playing great basketball. We made every shot in overtime. They hit a half-court shot that was defended at the buzzer to go to the NCAA tournament. Sometimes it's just where it's at. That's the beauty of sports in terms of what you're doing and what you're trying to get done. I think the greatest obstacle for us in football, beyond what we're able to control, is that there are some programs, and we need to be honest about this, the Dakotas, that are built a little bit differently as state schools. When I was in the Colonial Athletic Conference for football, our football coach used to say, you can compare us to anyone in this conference except for JMU. JMU's just built differently, and they're building to something different, and you see where they're going. They were in that conference, they were dominating that conference, and it wasn't that they were unbeatable, but they had a different setup, and they were trying to set up for that. So I think for Furman football to win a national championship, we're going to have to overcome some obstacles that are greater than just Furman in terms of what they are and the setup there. And some of these programs are being built for FBS, but they're still in the FCS in terms of where we are. But winning the conference is a goal. You're taking care of business on the field. No one's saying that it's all going to work out. I mean, things can happen along the way. And that's why you got to really enjoy where you're at, because you just don't know. And that's the beauty of sports. The longer you do it, the more you appreciate the journey. I mean, you're going through it with your Bengals. There's no guarantees with what you got ahead of you. And in a moment in time, you got a transformative quarterback. You got a great system going, but you got to play the games, and that's what makes the whole thing fun. That's why sports are exciting. And what we're trying to do at Furman is promote a culture of excellence academically and athletically. We want to embrace our challenges and opportunities in terms of the things that we're doing. And our coaches are doing a great, great job. We're really proud of them. And then we've got to help them and support them in spaces where they don't have what they need. We need to identify, okay, what is a barrier to success? What is something that may be holding us back, even slightly? What is it of things that we can do to help promote you or create a sense of ease and comfort in your process? And since the time that I've been here at Furman, I've seen a great change in the mindset here of people wanting to help these teams be successful. And doesn't mean it's perfect, but we're moving in a direction of doing those things, and our department's working incredibly hard, and I'm grateful for the people that we have.
All right, let's get into sprint mode here toward the end.
Yeah.
Any news on licensing apparel?
Yeah, so I actually, I checked on that with our staff yesterday, and they've been in negotiations with some companies to move this forward. It's a process. It also ties into some different things that are taking place on campus, but the answer is yes. The staff has been working on this. Expect to see some updates in the near future. No timeline set, but this is a part of the continued branding of where we're going. I did enjoy during Christmas time as I was doing my shopping and going into places and seeing the Furman gear out there, and love that I'm seeing more and more people wearing Furman gear in the Greenville community and beyond. But would love to see an increase in terms of the quality and the type of things that we're doing and what we can present. But everything from jerseys to different options are out there, and that's an ongoing process that our staff was happy to report back to me that they're making progress. Can't share any further details on it because it's negotiations and different partners that they have, but they're working on it.
Well, I can promise you right now it's better than it was, because when I was brought on here for the 2011 football season, the day it was announced that I was going to be taking over for Chuck Hushin as a play-by-play voice, I went out to try to find some Furman gear, and I couldn't find any.
Exactly. Yeah.
The only place that had it was the bookstore.
Yeah.
So there have been some steps made, some progress that's been made. It's just now, like everything else, what's the next step?
Yeah, and it's part of a grassroots movement of what we're trying to do. You got to build your way up, and you got to start with your home base, and you got to grow from there. But the indicators and also the metrics on that, and also the finances have been really, really good when it comes to licensing and apparel. So that's where you're the beneficiaries of your team's success, and we'd certainly love to grow it. I think one of the biggest challenges I have is getting really good purple stuff. You know, like, what do you want to get? But there's certainly an interest and a growth process to where we're going, and excited about that.
Yeah, I've been fortunate now. I can just go down to the football equipment room, and they've got some stuff that they can hand out. So
I see what you're wearing. You know, top 5 announcement. Come up with the football gear.
How do you foresee Furman Athletics changing, if at all, to meet the coming NCAA requirements with regard to student-athlete-specific career services?
Yeah, so this was a question I was really excited about. Because I don't think we spend enough time talking about the impact of the transformation committee. So as athletic directors, we certainly do. We just had our ADs meetings last week and went over all the different things in the transformation committee. And I need to share, like, there was a sense of worry a little bit with this transformation committee. There was some apprehension coming out of the summer about what are they going to do? What is this all going to look like? Based on the report that's been given out, I'm not worried. You know, it's actually really good. It's student-driven. You know, a lot of these different things are student-driven. A lot of these things that are in this report were about what does the comprehensive, student aspect of the NCAA look like. There weren't as many things about dividing up the leagues and doing all this different stuff that people were worried about in terms of all the different things. But one of the things that was really encouraging is that a number of things, if you go through the transformation committee, and there's a lot. I mean, you could spend hours on this document, are a lot of things that we're already doing at Furman to differentiate ourselves as an institution in terms of the things that we do. A lot of different features that are part of it are many different features that are features of part of the Furman advantage. And that's when you look at, are you institutional in a sense? Are you part of your institution? Or are you separate from your institution? So many different things that we do here at Furman are woven into the fabric of the Furman education, the Furman experience. And the Furman advantage is exactly what delivers on those different things. So when we think about what the transformation committee is looking for us to do, we will make specific tweaks that are specific to athletics, but we already have the infrastructure when it comes to Furman to do those things and to grow the brand that we have. The things that we really take pride in, for me, is a phenomenal student-athlete experience, that they are getting the resources that they need to be prepared for life and for success after college to do those things. Now, inside of it, for example, one element of it was a dedicated full-time mental health professional, which is a great thing. It's something that we've been asking for. It's something that we want. And that's great that that's in there. It also gave greater autonomy to students in certain cases in terms of different things that are taking place. So I think it's really good. There wasn't anything in the document that had me concerned. If anything, it doubled down on the fact that Furman is doing the right things. We are already positioning ourselves in a really good way. But I would look at no specific changes, just some tweaks relative to the things we do in terms of how we go about them and making sure that our coaches or student athletes, all the different things, are giving the right assets to Furman. I will tell you, I feel this great sense of investment from the university and from our coaches. They drive a lot of this programming, and it's one of the more unique things. But when you talk about the impact that Clay Hendricks has with the FFPA and the way that that group involves themselves as alumni, when you talk about Bob Ritchie with Further the Men, you talk about Jackie Carson with Women of Distinction, you talk about the work that Doug Allison and Andrew Burr have done. You talk about the Matt Davidson and Jeff Hull and how collaborative they are with their alumni. Just a lot of really good life lessons through learning. Chris Bork with, cross country, track and field. There's a lot. There's a lot of layers there, and I think we're going to be successful in that space.
We had a question about reporters being able to hear reporters post-game press conference. That's something that we need to get to our video people. Question about being able to secure tickets behind the bench in the Furman section when you go on the road came up.
Call Dwight Covington. If you're going to go to the games, I think our staff's very intentional about getting the word out to be a part of it to the best of their ability. You should also know that when you go on the road, in the Big East, this was a big thing. You only get 40 tickets behind your bench. So some schools may give you more because they allot more, but you're only guaranteed 40, which when you think about it is usually the coach's family or the player's family that travel, if they travel to the games. And it's always a competitive thing when it's there. Typically, what teams will do, including ourselves, we will have a visiting team section where we'll put the visiting team, and depending on logistics of the arena, those seats may vary in terms of where they are. But if you're going to a game and you want to sit there, call Dwight Covington. Call our ticket manager, because what will happen is that certain games are really well attended. Like at Wofford, there were so many Furman people there. It was there may have been more Furman people than Wofford people in that arena. But when we were up at ETSU, which was a great game, and I really enjoyed going to it, there weren't as many people there based on date and timing. So that sometimes there's an opportunity to sit in that Furman section that you want to be a part of when you're there. And there's the regulars. You got the Stuart Moonies, and you got the flag man. You got the guys that are there.
Dr. Block.
Dr. Block never misses a game, and he's almost a part of the team and such a great mentor for me and Bob Ritchie and such a great person. But there's a group that's always there, that's always traveling with the team. But I would just reach out to Dwight Covington. I think it's a good thing. Like when you start to ask questions about how do we secure more and more tickets, and you look at the way we're traveling and we're doing things, it's a really good thing. It means we're moving in the right direction. I will say, and I was going to bring it up in my notes for the future, we do need help, and we need – tomorrow night's a big night for men's basketball. Saturday, February 4th is a huge day for Furman downtown. For both the men and the women doubleheader and all the activities that take place at the weekend at the Well. That is about Greenville. It's about Furman basketball. It's about Furman University, but it's about us, strategic foothold into Greenville. It's a really important day for the university and the basketball programs. But the Southern Conference, we need support in the Southern Conference, both for our men's and women's teams, and that's a great opportunity. So our staff should be sending out information, I think this week, about the Southern Conference, and would encourage you to block that time, encourage you to look ahead. It's the first weekend in March, and to join us on that journey and to really be invested. The Monday night game was so exciting, not just because of the game, but I had a chance to be outside, and so many people from Furman were flooding that arena to be a part of that. If we can do that all weekend, that'll give us a home court advantage.
Yeah, no question.
That we need in Nashville.
Before we wrap it up, did you want to address that one or not? I included it, but I didn't know if you wanted to go in that direction or not.
I was very flattered. So it's a question that says, in the past you've spoken about the possibility of a successful coach, given the proper incentives, may decide they want to be a career coach at Furman University. Have you considered the possibility of being a career VP of athletics at Furman? I'm very flattered by the question, and we're very happy here. That for me, I hope that people would understand that for us, Rachel and I, this was a family decision. That she's from Western North Carolina. We wanted to raise our kids here. We wanted to be on a college campus like this. This job at Furman competitively, academically, geographically fit every need that we had. But the reality of a question like this is that as honored as we are to be here, we're under contract. And it's one of those things that decision's not my decision. It's just something we're really excited to be. But we're loving it here at Furman. We're really happy to be here, excited about the progress, want to continue to see the university reach its goals. And our family's really happy. So this has been a great community for us. One of the things I really enjoy is just having my family be a part of this academic and athletic environment. I love them being on this campus. It's the same thing I say to our staff. I love our families having their staff, their spouses be a part of this. And I think Furman's a really special place. So I'm under contract. I'm here and excited to be here.
Anything else that we haven't gotten to?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it before, but we really need support to the best of your ability tomorrow night. We want to create that home court advantage for our team versus Samford. Looking ahead, Saturday, February 4th, the weekend at the Well. We just ask that everyone and anyone can come out. That it's going to be faculty, staff, student appreciation, all the different things, great events. Our staff's putting together a great day. Looking ahead, before we get together again, we'll have the Hall of Fame on Friday, February 10th. Anyone from the Furman community is invited to attend to be a part of that. What an opportunity to induct Billy Napier on behalf of Furman football, Shea Salinas with men's soccer, Taylor Totland with women's golf, and Coach Potter, also women's golf. So we're excited about that. That's Friday, February 10th, if you want to join us for the Hall of Fame. And then after that, we're really going to get focused on the Southern Conference tournament. We got senior days in basketball coming up. We got spring sports starting. Exciting day for softball. They're hosting Clemson here on Valentine's Day.
Yep.
So if you want to have a date night at Furman softball, you can do it with the Clemson coming through, which will be a great day for us. But then the Southern Conference tournament the first weekend in March. But just grateful for everyone's support. We'll continue to keep you posted on updates with Timmons as we go forward. Look ahead to April 15th with the launch of the campaign for more specific information. But just grateful for all our support. And thank you to you. You've been traveling like crazy, basketball season, 2 games a week. And thank you to you and everyone on your team in terms of all the great work you're doing, Dan. We appreciate you.
Packed a lot into this episode, didn't we?
We got it done. It was good.
It's like we haven't done one since November.
Feels good.
Because we haven't. Listen, if you have any questions at all, you can always drop me an email, dan.scott@furman.edu, and we can make sure we pass them along to Jason or the proper folks, and look forward to getting back and doing this again next time. Good to see you, boss.
Good to see you. Thank you.
All right, this has been Inside Furman Athletics. We'll be back again next week, as a matter of fact. Robert Gary is coming up in our next edition 1 week from today. Until then, I'm Dan Scott saying God bless you and so long, everybody.